Crime, Mafia. Thank you for joining Williamsdale True Crime with my co-host on Mafia Mondays, former New York City detective, organized crime detective, Louis Balistrieri. Louis, how are you?
I'm awesome. I hope you had a great holiday.
You know what? Independence Day. I did a 3-hour live on Independence Day. Had a 3-hour special going on. If everybody joined, I couldn't believe it. We had probably close to 1,000 people jumping on and off. I think more than that in the end. Of different people was probably closer to 1,500 across multiple platforms. Thank you for all the fans for jumping on. I got a chance to pitch this show a little bit to the fans that weren't aware of it. So that's what I did. I didn't really get into the whole fireworks thing. It was a little bit overcast where I'm at in the Midwest, but it was nice. Every day out of freedom's Independence Day. So every day out of prison, rather. So what'd you do, Lou?
I had a barbecue at my house with my friends and my family.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Saturday, we had a Sweet 16 party for my nephew. I had about 50 people here. And both days I manned the grill. I do a lot of the cooking myself. People had a great time. And my knees and back are killing me. Thank you.
Excellent.
Needless to say, if you guys were closer, you would be here. And I got flies buzzing all around me here.
Did you take a shower today? Hey, listen. Now I understand you've had a brand new pool installed, and I'm not sure how much you want to mention here. But we won't mention the company unless you want to, unless you know.
No. At this juncture, it's under investigation, and I can tell you, I learned a very severe lesson. I'm going to kill this fly. Look at him. He wants to be a superstar.
You know what's interesting? The company. I have two friends that live in your town. They were literally, two of my friends were about to get estimates from the same company, and I told them absolutely.
No. Well,
absolutely.
The guy was a very humble guy. 12 years ago, I had him put a pool in for me, and the pool was outstanding. A 20 by 40 pool. I put palm trees all around. If you came to my house, I had people come and take pictures, and they said, where were you, in the Bahamas? No, it was my backyard. It was beautiful. So I called him up. We became very friendly. I hunted with him. I went out to dinner. I knew his family very well. I went out to dinner with him numerous times, him and his wife. Great guy. Okay. And what he did was I called him in for another pool. He's grown and grown and grown to the point where he doesn't have to work anymore. He comes there once a week and picks up his money. Okay. And he's got more than, as I understand it, 55 illegal aliens working for him that they're basically ditch diggers that have no, education as they're laborers. And the guys he's got running his company, they screwed me. Okay. I have a pool that is basically a hole in the ground that was never inspected. I want to.
That seems like it's illegal on his part to finish up a pool.
I think so.
It's got absolutely illegal.
He voided the contract, okay? But here's the problem that I have. I trusted him, and in his contract, which is about 4 pages, this fly is making me crazy here. He has what's called an arbitration clause. Right, and in that arbitration clause, I can't believe this. In that arbitration clause, it does not allow me to sue him, but I have to go to an arbitrator that he has on contract. How well do you think that's going to do?
He should do the right thing and send people over there to dig it up and give you a new pool.
Well,
here's the thing: arbitration or court doesn't make a difference. Now you have a reality TV star, me, with tens of millions of fans, very good connections to the media. Yeah. I have friends that live near where you are, so this is going to become widely known if he doesn't step up and be a
worse than that. Okay, I went to the largest law firm down here in Alabama called Beasley Allen, which is, I can't believe this fly.
That's your pool contractor.
That's him. He sent it over. I don't know if you remember the case where the woman went into McDonald's and dropped a cup of coffee in her crotch, and she got $1 million
Oh
because,
yeah, something like
you
that.
know.
Yeah,
But
the
Beasley
famous
Allen was
the
the law
famous
firm that
McDonald's.
represented her.
Yeah, I remember that, the famous McDonald's hot coffee case.
Right. And I went to them, and it took them 4 days to read the contract. And they said, "You're never going to win. So if you're doing good work, why do you have this arbitration clause in your contract?" He called me a friend. And basically, I have a pool that has never been inspected. I have 56 inches of shallow end, and then it drops down sharply into an 8-foot end. So if you can't swim, you're drowning.
That's an immediate drowning hazard. Immediate
No,
drowning
no two ways
hazard.
about it. 4th of July, I had my wife's cousin's daughter and her husband were in the pool, and he was holding his baby, who was about 4 months old. And
Oh my
I had
God.
to scream and say, "Hey, get back, get back," because he would have came off the edge, went down, and the baby would have went underwater.
With the
Okay.
kid in his arms. Oh my God.
Um,
If this guy's watching this, start doing the right thing and take care of this problem.
he's worse than that is the state attorney general's office is not doing the right thing. Now, I use them to represent me. This guy they lied. They did a bunch of things that are definitely not right. And they put concrete in the sewer. They clean out their trucks, and they ruined my yard.
Oh my God.
I have they were supposed to put in a French drain. They didn't put a French drain in. 4 times I made them dig it up, and it's still not right. Now I have water in the drains that become stagnant and they smell. And in order for me to get it out of there, I got to stick a hose in there because I'm going to get mosquitoes and flies in there. And I bet you that's where all these flies are coming from.
I saw the flooding on your property too.
Yeah, it was. I had like 6 inches of water coming almost to the door in the rear of my house.
And I say this in jest, you know, and I literally in jest in case he's watching. You know, I goofed around with you about this, dig this stuff out with some other illegal aliens and have him put the debris on his front lawn and say that you want your pool back. There it is.
What he did was he lives in Florida now. Okay. He rides around on $1 million boat. He knows who he is. He knows what he is. And where I come from, he wouldn't be doing this to people.
No, you make things right. Especially he had you believing he was a friend. You know, your hunting buddy.
He said to me,
he got so big that the quality suffered, and he doesn't seem to give a crap.
And what he's doing is he's paying a lot of people off. What he's doing is putting other pool companies out of business. What needs to be done?
These are the allegations and opinions of my guest that he has well documented and he's reported in multiple places. And we're not going to talk about the extent of what's going on behind the scenes with this because you don't want to show your whole hand on here. But I think he's in for a surprise as far as legally a surprise.
Yeah. So we're letting it go. There's a case underway. He knows the case is there. He's doing some horrible things to try to take the heat off him. He's putting the heat on me for things that I said and so on and so forth. I was involved in a homeowners association that had a problem, and 6 people that were on the board died. I have nothing to do with that, but he's trying to look like, you know, I may have had something to do with that. So these people are afraid of me. They're in fear of me. They screwed me.
Right.
They up and ran.
I would think the last person, because I know you're a good guy, but I would think the last person anybody would want to mess with is a retired New York City Mafia detective. What is wrong with these people?
You know what? You know what the problem is?
They should be
they
friends
don't
with
understand.
you. They should be friends with you or leave you. They should be friends with you or leave you alone. You're not the person to be messed with.
Yeah, you know what? I have to be afraid. If I did something wrong here, I'm going to jail. Yeah. As soon as I open my mouth, I'm not liked. I'm sorry. That's who I am. But this would not happen in New York because in New York,
we do deep dive exposés about official corruption. So believe me, if something like that happened to you, especially my fiance Mary, she is all over it. We would expose so much that their head would spin and they'd end up in federal prison forever.
And rightfully so. If this happened in New York, I could tell you now, he wouldn't be able to buy concrete. And that's just the way it
Right.
happens. He would never build a pool again. You want to lean on people and hurt innocent people. Now, the question that I have in my mind is, if he did this to me, how many other people did he do this to?
That's what I was going to ask you. Have you done that legwork yet and started rounding up these other victims?
What they did, the state attorney general's office, they sent out a letter surveying. Who'd you send the letters to? What he should do is get an investigator with a
Subpoena.
get all
Subpoena
of the people, get all of the people that have gotten pools from him, and go interview these people. Go measure the steps on the pool to see if they're correct.
Guess what? In these days, Louis, even if he just gave names to the AG's office of happy customers, between social media and my influence, there's ways that let your whole community know what's going on, and I guarantee we'll round up a whole bunch of more complaints for you.
Well, that's what's going to have to happen. But still, I don't have the AG's office standing behind me right now. They're doing everything they can, in my humble opinion, to shit can this case. Because
don't forget about the other agencies we discussed, and ultimately that ends up in racketeering and possible criminal charges. So
I like to see it happen, but surely I tried to do that with a homeowners association that was stealing money. I know they were. They know they were, and I couldn't get anybody to stand with me. I took them to court 3 times. I sued them. They lied. When you go into court, I represented myself. I hired an attorney at first, and I got a court order for them to leave me alone, and I had to leave them alone. And they violated that 102 times that I documented with photographs. I ran it like a criminal case. Okay. I sent out, they did 102 times. They violated it in 2 years. I went to court, and I filed subpoenas. The judge quashed all of my subpoenas. I needed those subpoenas to prove my case. And then when I went into court, the first day I was there, I was dressed very nicely. And the defense attorney, who I couldn't stand, he couldn't stand me, walked into the court and called the judge by her first name. And she called him by his first name back. I knew I lost the case right then and there.
Of course, they can't even pretend to be professional.
I filed a motion for discovery, and the discovery motion was never entertained. But they filed a motion for discovery. I gave them everything I had, and I got nothing to hide. Okay, because I know I beat them. I only had to beat them on 1 count. But this is the Mickey Mouse court system that's in Montgomery, Alabama. It's a good old boys club.
You know, it's funny. The federal prisons are full of corrupt officials, like you're talking about. And I do know, and I've heard from an expert in this, that a lot of these homeowners associations, particularly, they can be, and some of them are prosecuted under racketeering charges.
They can be. It was done in Virginia, but the idiots down here don't understand it. You know what they say? We all don't have no Italian mafia down here. You don't have to be Italian mafia.
Racketeering is not for Italian mafia.
That's correct.
An ongoing pattern of criminal activity. I had the definition here ready, but if you want to go ahead and spit it out to the best of your knowledge,
basically,
it's not just for organized crime Italian. That's the big.
2 or more people.
That's the
engaged in 2 or more crimes for a period of time is what RICO is. Organized crime is under the RICO statute. It's pretty simple. I mean, it gets a little bit more intricate. There are certain crimes that come into play, but this was being done. There's nobody on that board today that was on the board when I was there. After I left if I didn't get out of that area, they were giving me fines for, you got bird poop on your mailbox, $100 fine. The red flag on your mailbox isn't red enough, $100 fine. Right. Now, I beat them every step of the way, because what I did was I found out that 8 to 10 feet from your curb is what's known as the right-of-way. And the homeowners association has no jurisdiction over the right-of-way. My mailbox sat 22 inches on center. So guess what? All of the fines that they gave people were larcenies. All of the attempted fines that they gave people, it's an attempted larceny. By merely sending a letter, it's an aggravated communication as under, and then they stopped doing it.
That,
but I want to know.
That alone is a prosecutable RICO offense.
But they don't, and they've been doing it for years on end.
Yeah. And not just with that. This isn't petty. This is constantly extorting people out of money for the minor thing or things that they're not even sure about, and they just send you out these threatening letters.
It's coercion and extortion. Another thing that they I looked into it, and I know more about homeowners associations and how they operate and how they work than the majority of the people down here, including attorneys. There's a site called Nextdoor that I set up a site on there, and they banned me for it. I gave me a lifetime ban because I was asking people.
Is that this one here? Hang on. I think I belong to that. It's got a green icon.
Probably.
Right here. Oh, I don't know where it is, but it's got a green thing with an N on it.
I started to teach people how to beat their homeowners associations. Okay, because the people that are on the board in my neighborhood, they call them the yard Nazis. But I couldn't get a shadow to stand behind me and help me. They all knew I was right.
I'm sure there's Facebook groups that would are doing this, or you should set up.
You know what? Out of sight, out of mind. I'm in a homeowners association now. I only have 33 homes in my development. Everybody works with each other. They don't demand anything. There's not a lot of money going down here. The other homeowners association I belong to, there was 423 homes times $700 a year. It's a lot of money to get rid of.
Right.
And like one day it just came in and we had cameras. I didn't vote on that camera. That's quite a bit of an expenditure. Security cameras. Not that I feel that it's it's a necessary item. It's not bad, but where'd the money go? Did you put it out to fair bid? Who's monitoring those cameras? Now, we had a burglary in my neighborhood, and I asked for, by technicality, okay, there's 423 homes in that development. I paid for that camera. I own one 423 whatever of that camera.
You have a right to monitor and enter the footage.
That's correct, and they wouldn't give it to me. See what I'm saying? So they just stepped all over our rights. They didn't give. I got for them, and these people didn't even understand what I was doing. I got due process. When they find you, I always took them to a hearing, one of their administrative hearings, and they'd say, all right, you've been charged with bird poop on your mailbox. I'll say, okay, fine. What day was it? Well, I don't know. Well, do you have a picture of it? We don't have to show you. Well, who observed it? We're not going to tell you. Well, then it never happened. And I get up and leave.
Right.
It's just a.
And then even if they had a picture, there's chain of evidence, chain of custody of the evidence.
Well, then I'm going to get into a whole line of questioning. Okay. I want to see the guy who saw it, who made the complaint. Oh, we're not going to tell you. Well.
You have a right to confront your accuser.
I have a right to face my accuser. So they step on people's rights.
The confrontation clause of the Constitution.
They step on people's rights all the time. And the poor people that are unknowing just follow their lead. Something that I didn't know that I found out now, a homeowners association. Now, when you go to closing on your house, you just sign your life away. And an attorney says, well, son, this means that this means that you have to obey by the rules. This means you just sign. Otherwise, you'd be there a month and a half.
Right. And
one of the things you sign without knowing it is the homeowners association, depending on the homeowners association, of course, can fine you. And within so many months, they could collect a late charge. And then like 6 months later, they will put a lien on your house, and then they can foreclose on your house for that lien and the price of their attorney's fees and whatever. So you could essentially lose your house over $100 fine. I tell you right now.
But you don't wait when you
over
sign
that.
that. When you sign that, you're not waiving your right to due process in this process.
But you don't know what you're signing. Okay.
Otherwise, you'll be closing all day long.
Well, they're not taking my home over $100 fine. You know what I mean? And because I'd be wind up going to jail.
Right. So for my audience, you see retired detective goes through all the things that the rest of us go through, and he's trying to navigate it and do the right thing, and he's dealing with corrupt officials and corrupt business people and corrupt seems like racketeering in this
There's no doubt about it, it's racketeering.
Yep. And so we may do more stories on that, especially the homeowners association and these corrupt businesses that grow so big with the use of illegal aliens that quality suffers, and then they completely ignore the complaints. This pool company is definitely on our sites for now. We're hoping he does the right thing by you before this escalates in the media and legally.
Another thing that they did, and they did it to other people, is they come in, they open up the ground, and then you don't see them for weeks on end.
Wow. That's dangerous.
So, and you call them and they don't return your calls. But this is a scheme to defraud. And this state attorney general's office does not see what's going on here. It's not, I don't think that they don't see it. They don't want to see it. And in my opinion right now, I think somebody's getting greased. I'll tell you another thing this guy does. He goes out to these law firms, the major law firms, and this is what I found out, and he does a case with them, a closing on a house or something. Now, if I called up for that law firm to represent me, you know what they say?
Conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest. So he's got all these attorneys and what have you in his pocket.
That's another ground for racketeering because he's doing it deliberately to discourage litigation.
People do not see this.
It's clear as day. Let's move on to our topics of the day. And we do know that there's racketeering going on in both of these instances. In my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, but these people don't know what they're dealing with people like you and me who are very tenacious, have a ton of connections and experience with the law. I mean, it is what it is. You don't screw certain people over. You don't screw anybody over. But it's amazing to me that this is happening to you. So, Louis, what are we going to talk about here? We want to get into an issue that you and I spoke about privately. Your role growing up in an organized crime, very heavy mafia presence neighborhood in New York, and what that meant for you in life and in your career as an organized crime detective and your choices.
Well, you see these problems I just professed to you, that would not happen in an organized crime neighborhood. Okay, because we didn't call the police. We didn't have to hire an attorney. I went down the block to see one of my grandfather's friends or we all knew somebody, and you went there and you spoke to him, and what he'd do was he'd be the mediator, and either the person, he'd decide if the person is wrong, and if the person is wrong, he's going to pay a penalty somehow or another. Like I said, if this guy was doing this in Long Island, I will assure you that I'd make sure he would never be able to get concrete. And if he wanted to get concrete and he was paying, I don't know, $35 a yard, he'd have to pay $375 a yard. So that would basically put him out of business. That's what needs to be done here. You don't have to give him a beating, which he actually needs, but
in the opinion of my guest, speaking in frustration, we don't encourage violence here.
No, I don't encourage that. But this organized crime has a way of talking to people,
right? And we as New Yorkers have a unique way of speaking that people sometimes find. Hang on a second. All right, go ahead. Again.
Okay. Organized crime is going to hit you hard in the pocket or hard in the face. Sometimes you have to get both. Okay? That's the way things are.
I love it, Louis. You definitely have a way with words.
It's the way it happens. You know, you have to understand what's happening.
Right. You know, we all know this is a fictionalized account that has really no basis in reality. The Godfather. Everybody idolizes it. Everything that goes down in that movie is the opposite in real life, and that they're all stand-up guys. This, that, and the other thing. In real life, 99% of them are telling on each other. We know this. They all get into
Yeah.
cooperation, whether it becomes public or not. It's irrelevant. It's just the way it is because with RICO and other charges being so severe on organized crime activities, they all have to be slapped to shut them up, and then they'll protect their friends. They might not tell on a family member, blood, but they'll tell on everybody else. So we know what it is. We don't necessarily judge as part of your job. It's part of what society needs to protect itself from predatory activities. So even in The Godfather, again, fictionalized account of this glorified make believe mafia honor code. You know, they went to The Godfather. The one guy, somebody did something to his daughter, and
Right.
you know he deserved, in my opinion, the ultimate penalty. But that's my opinion. And so he went to The Godfather to resolve it. And I guess the guy owned a funeral home, right? So later he owed him a funeral service or something. Remember that?
Right.
Yeah. So you know, like at the
Was
wedding,
it you know, guy, or was it Enzo the Baker?
and yeah, there was the
One or the
baker.
other. It was one or the other.
Yep. Yeah. And then another time
The
they
idea,
brought.
the idea there was, now I never heard of this, but they brought it out in The Godfather. On the day of Don Corleone's daughter's wedding, he can't refuse anybody who asks a favor of him.
Right. Who knows? You know, who knows if that's legend. Real.
I never, me personally, I never heard of that.
Right. I'm part Sicilian. I've never heard of it. It may be part of Sicilian.
It might have been done for entertainment.
Right.
Okay. And if you saw Luca Brasi,
yeah,
he was sitting outside saying, Don Corleone, I am happy to be here on the day of your daughter's wedding, and may their first child be a masculine child. Now, little do people know,
he's a wrestler.
Lenny Montana, who I met personally, I shook his hand, and he shook my hand all the way up to my elbow. I looked at his hand to see if it said Spalding on the back of it. He's huge, a big, humble man. He did whatever he did. I believe he worked for the Colombo crime family. And he was actually rehearsing. He couldn't remember his lines. And he was actually rehearsing them outside. Okay? And they made that a part of the movie.
To make it look like he was a big, dumb, thug,
Right.
bone breaker. I heard he was a professional wrestler. I didn't know he was a real mobster.
He was an arm breaker and a bodyguard for certain people.
Is he still alive?
I don't know. He probably passed on. Most of those people are now gone.
Right. You know who's not gone? Who's the one that played what's her name? Talia Shire's husband, the one that was beating her up when she was pregnant. Remember him?
Russo.
Gianni Russo.
Yeah, he's out and about. He's blowing his own horn.
Oh my God, he is a king of self-promotion. You ever see this guy?
Listen,
he's a character.
What am I doing over here? I'm doing the same thing.
Right, but he's funny because if you watch his interviews, I don't know if you ever have, because I want him on my show. Don't get me wrong, I want him on my show. Right, he goes on smaller shows and then sometimes bigger shows. And I'm relatively new, but I have probably more fans on the network side than I have here. So Johnny Russo, he'll get on there. He'll say, when I was 14 years old, Marilyn Monroe took my virginity. He's got stories for days.
Well, I don't know about you, but I slept with her 3 or 4 times myself. She didn't know about it, but I did.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So here's the thing. He has one story after another. Like the time I was with Sinatra, this, that, and the other thing. The time I was with da. And it's just one thing after the other, right? And then so the funniest part of Gianni Russo's shows, first of all, he dresses phenomenal. I love the way the guy dresses, right? To the nines with the little pocket thing, whatever. So so he carries himself well. You know, he's very presentable. But the funniest thing about his shows, Louis, go to the comments. The things people say about him and the boasts he makes. One of the funniest ones were, yeah, and I was, I was in the garden with Eve, and I told her there's gonna be trouble there's gonna be trouble if we eat that fruit. Like he claimed to be everywhere throughout history.
Well,
This guy.
listen, whatever. If you say it, yeah, okay, fine. There's a guy that's running around. He calls himself Big Joe. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's a big, heavy set guy.
Uh,
And he's got his pinky rings. Hello, everybody. Big Joe over here. He talks about his dead grandmother. Mi nonna Marina Badodulul always said, io metto una mazzata ogni giorno per 100 anni, which means I'll give you a beating every day of your life for the next 100 years. Have a good day. This is what he does. But he I don't know what he is. I think he's an actor. I don't know what he is. His name is Big Joe. Big Joe here. And he's got all the motions, and Big Joe here. Mi nonna Maria said, whatever. You got a couple of Austin Gravesend or whatever. I don't know. But
Gravesend's pretty good. My friend Bruce Sosa's in it. You come down to Florida, I'll introduce you to Bruce. He's one of the stars of the show. I'll introduce you to a ton of people. We'll talk about that off the record, but
sure. Yeah, look up this guy, Big Joe. I like to talk to. Who are you? That's all I want is who are you? You would think he's the head of. He appears like he's the head of some family. I have no idea who the guy is, but apparently people like him.
Right.
He's doing commercials. He's doing this. He's doing that.
Send me the information. We'll look him up. We'll figure out what he does. And we'll have him on the show with you, Gianni Russo, and our other friend Anthony Riamundi in New York. He says,
I can tell you this: a lady that I'm working with right now is Lisa Caserta, who was Henry Hill's second wife. A lovely lady. She is helping me out. She took me to Las Vegas with her, and she's introduced me to 1 million people. And wonderful lady. She's very good friends. Clem Caserta is her cousin. No, that's I locked up those two guys. There's my partner Vic.
I'm trying to find her picture. I know I had it in this lineup somewhere.
That's me again when I had hair.
Yeah, we've had her on the show before here. But, her images. I don't know what's going on here. This is our Mafia Monday thumbnail that we used originally. For everybody watching, we're doing a segment called Mafia Mondays. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. As you can see, we don't take ourselves too seriously, but we do try to do crime prevention here. And don't follow in my footsteps. Follow in Louis' footsteps. He became an aggravated cop because he was betrayed by Giuliani. And in a big case called Wasteland, where they took down Genovese and Gambino's. I don't think you ever even wanted to be on an organized crime squad, did you?
No, I tried to stay away from it.
Right.
Because I grew up in and around all of these people. Right. In this Italian bread case, some of the players were a guy I went to school with and his father. Mm-hmm. They were Bonanno guys. And I don't want to see it. I was in Howard Beach one time, and we were looking at a guy who had nothing to do with organized crime. He got arrested for rape, but he was somehow or another tied into these heroin people. It's when I was doing the Asian heroin case, and a guy came out and he tapped on the window, and it was somebody I grew up with. And he's well known. His name is Peter Zaccaro. I grew up with the guy. A couple of years older than me, but he was part of Sal Polizzi's crew. He was a great car thief, rough and tumble guy. He was a bit older than me, but nobody ever beat me up when he was around because he would stick up for me. Right. He was a good guy. He had two brothers. I knew both his brothers and his sister. Both of his brothers have now passed on. His sister's still. She's out and about. She's a very nice girl. I knew his mom. And that's the deal. But this is what you grow up around. You know, this is who you know. This is one of the benefits of being in a family that's not only a family but a neighborhood with organized crime.
Right.
They kept the the neighborhoods clean, so to speak. If there was, go ahead.
Again, if there was what?
There was a borderline. And I'm sorry it was this way, but that's the way it was. When I lived in East New York, the borderline was Crescent Street. And if you went past Crescent Street, heading more towards the City Line area, and you were black, you were doing something wrong. So you'd get a beating just for coming through there. I'm not saying it's right, but that's just the way it was. Now, turning the coin over, if I'm a white guy and I walk past Crescent Street going towards Pine Street and further deep into the black neighborhood, I'm either there to buy drugs or I'm up to no good somehow or another. And if I got my ass kicked, what could I say?
Yeah, it was a shame. It was like that. You know, I lived in Gravesend, Bensonhurst area. I don't know if you remember the Willie Turks case. Remember that?
No.
A transit worker got off the train. I think it was the F train right in my neighborhood, Avenue X, went to get something to eat. All the Italian kids jumped on him, beat him up.
Black guy?
Yeah, just because he's black, and they killed this guy. It was a huge civil rights case. And then there was another one, I think Yusuf somebody or other. This guy here was dating a white girl in my neighborhood, and he knew, it was very, very racist in my neighborhood at that time. Not now. Right. But we're talking about early 80s, 70s. So they chased him. I forget exactly where it happened. It might have been more towards Queens. I don't remember. But they chased him. I think he went into the Bell Parkway and got hit by traffic.
That was in Howard Beach.
Howard Beach, yeah. Yusuf, what was his name? So Yusuf.
Him, I don't know. Yusuf Hawkins?
Hawkins, yep, that was it. And so I remember with the Turks case, you had what's the black guy, the race baiting preacher guy, Sharpton, Al Sharpton.
Al Sharpton.
Yeah, he does no good for his own people, and they still follow him.
He's making money off their backs.
Of course they are. He's doing what like a lot of Democrats do. They exploit racial, differences and historical animosity, and they claim a lot of it's still going on today. Well, maybe in some pockets it is. But bottom line, Trump's done more for racial unity and healing than anybody. Obama came in and destroyed it completely, and Biden's making it even worse by saying that, Trump's a racist. He's never had one racist act in his life. Anyway, I digress. So Sharpton came in with his, I think it was the Move Push Coalition, or was that Reggie Jackson? Whatever his organization was from Harlem, and they marched on 86th Street. And, it's a very unfortunate, I don't support this, but they marched on 86th Street, racial justice for Willie Turks, and he deserved, justice, right? I think it took a while to charge the kids, but ultimately some of them were charged. But, they're throwing watermelons at him. They're throwing stuff at Al Sharpton, and a kid in my neighborhood ran out and stabbed Al Sharpton and stabbed him in the chest. And so this was my neighborhood in those days. I stayed away from all that nonsense, but it was pretty prevalent there. I had a Puerto Rican girlfriend at the time. It was nerve-wracking having her around because, they would call her racial things. Not the kids, because I would go after them. But, like, even an Italian family across the street was like, oh, yeah, you moved that, that. I don't know if I can say it on here because I don't want to be shut down, but SPIC, right? So,
yeah,
so he's like, oh, you moved that
term.
And so even like my neighbors were racist, and my neighborhood was all Italian and Jewish. You know how it was back then. So I go December. My mother passed away when I was in prison. I go to New York to go visit the cemetery. Silent Partners premieres in a film festival. So I go for all that. I haven't been back to New York in many years because I was incarcerated. My neighborhood's changed. There is all kinds of stores everywhere. The whole of 86th Street, Bensonhurst, is mostly Chinese now, so it seems. Lenny's Pizzeria, where John Travolta had the slice in Saturday Night Fever, right. They've sold that or something. It wasn't the same owners because it still had his pictures in there on the wall, autographed pictures of John Travolta. My street, I was trying to find a location where Sammy the Bull killed Frank Fiala. I think it was Frank Fiala. He was the guy who bought Plaza Suite from him. I happened to be driving by that night, and I was confused and turned around from between McDonald Avenue, Stillwell Avenue, Avenue X. My favorite pizzeria was no longer there. It has completely changed, in my opinion, gone downhill. On the commercial streets has gone downhill because you don't have that influence you're talking about. On the residential streets, they tore down 2, 3 houses in a row and built mega mansions all through my neighborhood. I don't like Russian oligarchs or very wealthy business people. My neighborhood has many mansions all over the place, including the house I grew up in. My sisters stole my inheritance, then sold that house to the neighbors. They tore the house down, one of the oldest homes in Brooklyn, tore it down, and they just used the land for a gigantic in-ground swimming pool in their house, worth $2, $3 million. But it was heartbreaking going through the neighborhood and seeing the condition of it. Things have changed.
Things change.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people are fleeing New York now because these Democrat policies and not prosecuting violent felons. Everybody's being victimized and killed, and like the prosecutors and Alvin Bragg in Manhattan, he doesn't care. They'd rather go after Trump for misdemeanor. What's that?
He's corrupt. He's bought and paid for.
Of course, Alvin Bragg, in my opinion, is highly corrupt. There's a lot of evidence coming out. He went after Trump for misdemeanors. They convicted him of 38 counts or some nonsense. Multiple prosecutors declined the prosecution because there's no victim. The bank never complained. Nobody complained. He's paid everybody back. Nobody lost a dime. They're prosecuting because he's running as a Republican president.
That's correct.
And he was probably the most successful president in the history of this country. And he was fair to everybody. The ones that are in there now, I'll tell my audience this. I was a law clerk in prison. We advocate for the wrongfully convicted now as part of what we do. Biden was behind the crime bill of 1994. The reason your loved one's sitting in prison, 85%, Biden. That was his bill. He called blacks super predators. So why would you vote for him today? He said you should get 20 years for a little bit of crack. Now his son comes out. He's strung out on cocaine himself, struggling. Get him some assistance. I don't judge his son, but the hypocrisy of this Democrat Party is beyond belief. And some of my best friends are Democrats. And we agree to disagree on policies, but this Biden crime family is absolutely out of control. Biden was behind the reason people are serving 85% today. They passed it as a federal bill for the federal prisons, but then the feds said, we will give the states additional construction dollars for your prison system to upgrade and build more buildings if you change your sentencing guidelines to reflect an average of what the feds are doing or higher. So the feds were doing 85%. The states' legislatures started changing their sentencing. Like Florida was 65%. Because of that Biden's crime bill, it's now 85%. My family was destroyed because of this. I didn't see my kids because of this. Relationships were destroyed. My mother passed away while I was incarcerated. So you think I'm going to vote for Biden, who made sure I stayed in prison for a nonviolent crime for 18 years? It's not happening. People need to know the history before they say, oh, Biden's great for the blacks and the minorities. No, he's not. He's incarcerated half your family members, and you don't even realize it. Look at the history. Look it up. Biden crime bill. Look at the speeches where he gave calling blacks super predators. He's not your friend. He's absolutely a con artist.
Kamala Harris.
I don't know a lot about her. I think she's very incompetent and silly, but I know a lot about Biden. Everybody was very bitter when this happened, and lives were destroyed. You don't put nonviolent people in for like 2 decades and 85%. And, you get them some help for their addictions or whatever they're dealing with, and maybe more harsh on the violent. You don't pass a bill that incentivizes the states to destroy people's lives. And that's what they did. They incentivized with construction dollars. And people refuse to do the research. You can't tell them. And then, oh, yeah, I have 3 family members in prison. And no, they're just this and that. Well, do you ever think why they're stuck there so long for all these petty crimes? Biden. The crime bill of 1994 and the provisions of it that incentivized the states to change their laws also. Anyway, you got me on a tangent on that one.
I'm listening.
But anyway, I used to be a Democrat when I was young and gullible and in college. As I grew up and saw how the world really works, there's plenty of corruption on both sides. But
you got to remember,
I definitely
there's 2 wings attached to the same bird.
Exactly. Some people would tell you, the conspiracy people, there's no parties. They're all doing the same thing. They're all reporting to this other organization, whatever. Who knows if all that's true? What are they going to do? Say, oh, yeah, I'm the Illuminati. I'm this, I'm that. who the heck knows? Everybody's got a million. Every other day, I got a friend request from a Rothschild. You ever see those come across your thing?
Nope.
Oh yeah, and then you act like you're confused. You got to act like you're confused. I'm very confused. What is this all about? And they'll tell you this big spiel, bunch of con artist nonsense. So, Louis.
Yes, sir.
What are we doing next? Silent Partners. I'm in a movie. This little tiny bit of a part. Silent Partners is 1980s era style Miami Vice. It's set in South Florida, mafia, trafficking, blah blah blah. And I got a little part in Ciro DiPaggio. He made Mob King, just came out, and Ciro's blowing up on the independent films, and he's doing relatively well for himself. So he's become a good friend. I've had him on my show a few times. He gave me a little part in this because I do have, from my reality show, tens of millions of fans. So I guess, I don't know if he gave me the little thing because he likes me or because he knows I bring some more attention to what he's doing. Either way, I'm fine with that. That's my reality show. I don't have a thing up here for Silent Partners, but that's my reality show on A&E Network. And I'm in season 1 as Bill. For those of you who might not have seen this, we have an event, a premiere at the Wick Theater. The Wick Theater and Costume Museum. It's in Boca Raton, Florida at the end of August. So I believe yourself, possibly Frank Lordy, my other co-host. He was a former Youngstown commissioner, went to prison. He's been exonerated. And Ignacio Esteban, we're waiting for him to get back from Europe to give us a definitive answer. But he was an agent in South Florida for many years. So I'm certain he'd probably like to attend this also. And we're going to see if we can all go down there. I know Hollywood Wade, Chip Williamson, I talked to him today. He's definitely going.
Very nice man. Very nice man.
Yeah. How'd your interview go? I hooked you up with him.
Oh, yeah. He was very good. Ask him.
Yep. He told me I think you hooked him up with Vic and yes. What was the other guy? Chris. He said he's already interviewed Vic. I think he said he's about to interview Chris. I mentioned Ralph to him also, yes. So I'll give him Ralph's contact as well.
Yeah. I give Ralph a call later on.
Yeah, let's do that one too. So listen, for my audience, we're going to save some room for some clips about Silent Partners, some clips for our books. Louis got a book coming out hopefully soon. When it comes out, here's your friend here. I just found her picture.
Yeah, she is. That's Lisa Caserta, who was Henry Hill's second wife. The gentleman alongside her is Nick Parisi. He's an author as well. He's up, I believe, from the Boston area. These are all people I met. That's Captain Kenny. He's a character. He sells things. He's in and about all of these shows. There's me. Could you imagine I'm handing out autographs? Did you ever?
Yeah, so this is at the Mob Summit that Louis went through. Right. He did a little bit of the tourist thing. Now, he was there strictly on business, as you can see.
Who's that guy?
I don't know who that is.
I don't know. I've never.
And this
the gentleman there is, he's another author, Alan.
So we're going to keep refreshing the memory of your fans and mine of who we actually are. So this is William Steele. I star on A&E Network, Inmate to Roommate Season 1. Became the second highest rated reality show in the country. A lot of fans said to me, in Season 1, there was this rule board up on the wall in my bedroom. I get out of prison. My sisters ripped me off for about $800,000 inheritance. I decide not to go up there for a minute to decompress from being in prison. And I'm living with a pen pal in Indiana. So this is the sign of rules they decided to put on my wall. So if you guys want to freeze this and read that, bottom line, a lot of fans says, Bill, have the rules for sale. Sell autographed copies. Well, I did that, and they're selling like crazy, above and beyond expectations. And I probably should have did it a long time ago. And this is the book that was featured on the show. There goes Ignacio's book. This is my latest book, Lou. I don't know if I told you about this one.
Yeah, you mentioned it last time.
Yep, that's the story of bank heist, true story, and I write from the point of view of crime prevention and how that genuine bank heist could have possibly been prevented. I'm looking for your cover here. Tell my audience the name of your book.
Revenge Served Cold. It's right behind me.
Okay. Yeah, it's on the poster behind him, and that'll be out soon.
One of the things that I try to do when I speak is I try to tell the truth based on my experiences within the police department, within the streets I walked. I want them to get my feeling. You know what I mean? I want them to know that cops are human beings.